Hey guys, Dwindling Elves here, and today I've got a game of my High Elves versus Lizardmen, and this is at 2,500 points. So it's the first game I played after Chaos Ludic, where I said Seaguard were no longer going to be in my list, whether they just performed so terribly. So now I'm trying out some Silver Helms, and we'll see how it goes today. So for Magic, I've got the Lore Master of Hoeth with the Book of Hoeth, and then I've also got a Dragon Mage. I'm actually a real big fan of the Dragon Mage. I really like dragons, and I like the maneuverability that they bring into the game. Yes, he's only strength 5, toughness 5, and he's only got 4 attacks, and the mage on top kind of sucks as well. But for 400 points, I think he's pretty good, and in tandem with some of the other units, he works really well. Now I'm facing a level 4 Slan, who's got the Lore Master of High Magic. He's also got the Channeling Staff and the three channel attempts, and the Dispel, or reroll your first fail to Dispel attempt. And he may have had some other things, but I don't think they didn't come into play. So my opponent has got a Scarvet on a Carnosaur on the in top left. And in front of them, he's got a unit of 10 Skinks with Blowpipes, then 24 Saurus Warriors with Hand Weapon Shield, 20 Temple Guard with his level 4 Slan. In the middle, then next to them, another 24 Warriors with Hand Weapon Shield. And next to them, he's got the Troglodytes, and up top he's got the Channeling Skink, and then a regular Stag with the Bolt Thrower, and then 10 Skinks with Javelins in front of them. And out of shot, he's also got a unit of 3 Ripperdactyls, and they vanguarded forward, which is why you can't see them in this picture. So my list, out of shot on my left, I've got a unit of 5 Fast Calves, so Reavers. Then I've got a unit of 6 Silver Helms with Champion and Musician. Then an Eagle on the hill in the back. Then I've got a Frostheart Phoenix and the Dragon Mage. So they're up against the Carnosaur. Now I deployed him like that so that he would put his Carnosaur there, or I was hoping that he would put his Carnosaur there, and that's what ended up happening. And I'm just going to fly these guys over at first turn because I don't want anything to do with that Carnosaur. It's going to absolutely eat either of those 2 birds. So I've got my Phoenix, my Dragon Mage, then a unit of 24 White Lions with my Lore Master, and they've got Banner Musician. Then a unit of 24 Phoenix Guard with Banner Musician, and then a big bus of 15 Silver Helms. And in there I've got my BSB, who's got a 2-up rerollable armor save and a lance. So he's relatively cheap, and that unit of knights has been marked with the toad frog thing, so the Ripperdactyls get super frenzy against them. So I get first turn, and I vanguarded my Fast Cav up, and I pretty much shoot them all the way across the board, so I'm making him choose. I'm really just forcing his Skinks into a position where they have to choose between shooting at one or the other, and I can countercharge with the other unit. And then I move the rest of my lines up not as quickly as possible. I'm not sure if I want to get into combat right away. I do have a couple of magic missiles that I can throw at him, particularly Spirit Leech or a bigger version of Shem's Burning Gaze. And so I don't want to get into combat too quickly. And I move the bus up so that the Ripperdactyls are still in their front, because I think if these guys come into my front, I get 15 attacks. Plus my BSB attacks, so I get 18 attacks with rerolls to hit, plus the horse attacks. I think I would delete that unit before they do anything to me. So that's why I'm leaving them in my front. And then I just move my 2 flying monsters over to get away from that Carnosaur, and I'm really just going to push one flank and then delay with my small units at the other, which is why I'm also leaving my Eagle back. I figure he's more use and he can redirect later on in the game. That's, another picture of the same thing. So in the magic phase, I throw a couple of dice at the bigger version of Shem's Burning Gaze. I get it with Irresistible Force. I do 1 wound to his Troglodon, and then on the miscast I lose 2 wizard levels, so my level 2 Lore Master is now level 0, which means I'm not casting any magic besides my Flaming Sword of Ruin for the rest of the game. So I thought this was going to be rough, especially against the Slan, and I really, need the weapon skill buffs and the Ice Shard Blizzard to to make sure that I'm only getting hit on 6 discs, because otherwise Source will eat my lunch. So I was a little bit worried there. So Lizardman turn 1. So his Ripperdactyls fail their frenzy, and they have to charge into the front of my Silver Helms, which I'm loving because I'm going to, again, I get like 18 attacks on these guys before they even get the strike. So I'm really liking that, and I figure I can overrun into his unit of Skink Spark behind them. On the other side, so in the center he stays relatively intact, and he's relatively tentative with his monsters as well. I think he's waiting for me to charge him. He'll try to hold and maybe countercharge with his monsters. And then he can envelop me. His Carnosaur goes after my unit of Knights, which I'm loving, because if I pass my March test, I'm just going to walk right around that guy. If I don't, I'll just back up, and then it'll take the Carnosaur pretty much out of the game if he does get charged, because he'll get Frenzy and I'll have to overrun and all that stuff. His Skinks are going to shoot my Fast Cav, which I'm a little bit worried about because I think they'll just poison those guys to death. Then in the Magic phase, he gets the Walk Between Worlds, a big version of Walk Between Worlds off, and he puts his unit of Saurus right in my flank. So this really puts the pressure on me. I think it was a very good move on his part. So I either have to reform and hold, or I got to get those guys out of there and maybe get out of their line of sight with a long charge against his other 2 blocks. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, in the shooting phase, I lose all but the champion from this unit, but he passes his panic test, so he's still, being a nuisance. And then, yeah, so in the combat phase, this was pretty much expected. I'm a little bit, I think I'm maybe underperformed. So I put 5 wounds instead of 6, so he still had 1 guy attacking back. Luckily, he didn't attack my BSB with the killing blow, but he just attacked the regular knight, and I lose 1. I think he's on insane courage, and I pursue him. When he breaks, he gets away, but I get a free charge into the Skinks, which is nice because they hold, and then when I break them, I don't think it's a long overrun into that Stegodon either, so that's really good news for me. And then in my turn, I have to go for it. Since he's hemmed me in there with his other Blockosaurus, I want to get my guys out of there as quickly as possible. So I charge my White Lions, my Phoenix Guard, and my Phoenix into his Temple Guard block. So I want all 3 guys to get in there, but only the White Lions and the Phoenix make it, and the Temple Guard will double ones. Phoenix Guard will double ones or something, and yeah, they just kind of stood there. Then in my movement phase, I fly the dragon up over here. Because I'm going to breath weapon these guys, I'll be able to hit 18 guys. And in my magic phase, I actually get a flaming sword through without irresistible force or anything, so I'm going to be wounding on 3s, so that'll really help there. And then I also move the eagle in front of that unit, so I'm going to sacrifice the eagle so that his guys can't flank charge my Phoenix Guard in the next turn. So yeah, in the shooting phase, I hit 18 guys and I kill 10, so I'm pretty happy with that. And as expected in the combat phase here, I break the Skinks easily, killed him, man, and then I overrun into that Stegodon. He can now charge me with his Troglodon, but I'm not really worried about that. I've got Leadership 9 with a reroll, and I'll be steadfast even if I lose. Then in the other phase, in the other combat against the Temple Guard, my White Lions absolutely go to town. They actually underperformed, but we kill, I think, 15 Temple Guard between the White Lions and then the Frostheart Phoenix, and I get lucky back. I only lose 1 guy in return. I guess, the -1 strength may have helped me, and maybe I was lucky with my armor saves, and my opponent may have just fluffed his attacks. So I get a little bit lucky there, but he's Temple Guard and he holds, so now I've got... One thing I'm worried about is that Phoenix is going to take a flank charge from that Saurus unit, so he's going to get tons of attacks in there. So Lizardman turn 2, he countercharges me with his Saurus block as well as his Troglodon as expected. I'm a little bit worried about my Phoenix. There's a ton of attacks coming into him. Yeah, they're only hitting me on 4s and they're wounding me on 6s, but I still got a 5-up armor and actually got a 6-up ward this magic phase, 4-up ward, sorry. So that might help me. but I'm a little bit worried even just because he's going to out-static combat res me there. He starts with 5. And then the rest of his movement, his skinks keep following my my lone fast cav guy, and they're going to shoot him off the board. He charges his source block into my eagle because he wants to get them out of the way. And then he moves his Carnosaur back to the other side of the board, where they can potentially do something Lizardman turn 3. So yeah, that's another picture of that, all 3 combats there. So in the magic phase, he casts Hand of Glory with Irresistible Force, and in doing so, he ends up blowing up 3 more of his Temple Guard, which is really nice, which means that I can also start putting attacks into the Slan himself, because before he was still hiding behind the first rank of Temple Guard. And he also gets Fiery Convocation off on my Phoenix Guard and kills 7 of them. And in the shooting phase, yeah, he wipes out my fast cav as expected. And so we go to the combat phase, and over here, my eagle fluffs his attacks, does nothing to him, and then he does no wounds to me. I don't know how this happened. I mean, he's hitting on 4s and killing me on 4s, and he absolutely spooned his dice. He didn't get a single wound through, so my eagle runs away, and he has to pursue because he's got the predatory fighter. And he catches my eagle, and he's actually out of line of sight of my dragon, so that might have ended up working out better for him. Over here, his Troglodon puts 1 wound on my BSB, and his Stegodon puts 1 wound on one of my knights. I do 4 wounds to him, to the Stegodon that is, and I do 1 more wound to the Troglodon. So I win combat. His Stegodon breaks and he runs off the board, like he won't rally next turn. And his Troglodon actually holds, so I just reform there. And over here I kill the rest of the Temple Guard, and I put a couple of wounds on the Slan, but the Slan's still alive, and he holds, and he actually ends up losing combat with the Phoenix. I end up killing 5 guys, and he does no wounds to me, so yeah, that -1 strength is really nice because it keeps your armor save at 5+, and I've got 5+, 4+, so it just didn't get any wounds through on me. And he holds there as well. So, High Elf turn 3. I get the easy flank charge with my Phoenix Guard into his source block, and my dragon reforms to get behind his source block on the bottom of the screen, forcing him to reform, and then I'll charge him High Elf turn 4. And I move my Silver Helms at the top of the screen over. They might do something later on in the game, but I don't think I need them right now. But maybe they'll get a charge on the Troglodon later on in the game when he gets stuck in with the white lines. So there is no magic phase, so we go straight to combat. I kill his Slan over here and reform like such, and he ends up holding with his Source Warrior, so I go in and take off another rank, so I think I killed another 5 guys, and he does 2 wounds to me, and I think he may have put a wound through on my Phoenix as well, so he ends up holding, so we're going to continue fighting there, and I'm unable to reform my Phoenix because I think that would take models out of base combat, which I'm not allowed to do, so let me know if we played that wrong, but I think both of us thought that was the rule, so that's why I'm not reforming him. And then, so I break the Troglodon as well, and these guys get an easy rear charge into the Source block, but we did that combat after, so they won't actually come into play. So Lizardman turn 3, he charges his Scarvet on Carnosaur into my White Lions, and I actually fail my fear test in the combat phase. So he's got the blood-curdling roar or whatever, which makes me take my fear tests and terror tests on 3d6 and ignore the lowest one. So I actually failed my fear test, so it means that he's hitting me on 2s, and I'm only hitting him on 5s, which is going to make a huge difference, considering normally I'd hit him on 3s and kill him on 3s. So it means that his Carnosaur is actually going to get to live. And then he just reforms his Source blocks and tries to get as many ranks, because he knows the dragon's coming after him next turn. And then yeah, so because I failed my fear test, I do very little to the Carnosaur. I actually ended up losing combat. He takes I think 5 or 6 guys off of me. But I am stubborn and I hold. And in the other combat with the Source block, yeah, with those Knights coming in the rear, the Phoenix Guard in the flank, and the Phoenix in the front, that I think we kill those guys to the man, and they end up breaking. And I reform my Phoenix Guard so they can get a flank charge into his block on my turn 4. So that's the really nice thing about having, beating your opponent and winning combats on their turn. You reform and get a charge on your turn again. So that was a nice plus. And in the other, yeah, I reform my guys to get extra ranks in the White Lion Carnosaur combat as well. So High Elf turn 4. I get the easy flank charge into the Source block on the bottom, and I charge my dragon into the front, so those guys are doomed. And I charge my Silver Helms into the flank of that Carnosaur as well to get an extra 6 attacks in there. So I get in the magic phase, I get Flaming Sword off on the Phoenix Guard, and we break the Source block, but fail to catch them. But it's not a big deal. If he rallies next turn, I'm just going to auto charge him again, and they'll be dead. In the White Lion combat, we take the Carnosaur out of the game, and this is where my opponent calls it. Yeah, so this is the last shot of the game. So it ended up being a victory to the High Elves. So the after action report, yeah, so victory for High Elves. The Silver Helms' core are awesome. I think that's the only thing I'm going to use as core from now on. If I had more Silver Helm models, I probably wouldn't even taken the Reavers, but I guess the Reavers are useful with a Vanguard, and against different opponents, they're better War Machine Hunters just because they get that 12 inches of movement before the game starts. And I figured it was a good place to put my BSB in the Silver Helms because he can get a 2-up rerollable armor save very quickly, and I think it's one of the only ways to get a survivable BSB in a High Elf army, so I'm going to keep doing that. So my magic phase wasn't really needed, so I got 1 spell off early in the game, and that was really it, and it didn't really come into play after that, so it makes me think maybe instead of playing with the Lore Master, I might try a Moon Dragon or a Star Dragon Lord next time and not play with a Lord level caster, and maybe play with 2 level 2s or something like that. So that might be something you might see down the road, because I really like the monster list. It hits hard and fast, it's got great maneuverability, and you can really just pick your fights. And one thing you can do is put all your monsters on your left flank, have your opponent set up with all his counters to your monsters that are generally slower on that flank, and then turn 1 you can fly 20 inches across the board and really weigh down the opposite flank and just hit like a hammer. So I really like the maneuverability, and I really like being able to pick your fights. So I'm going to try to continue playing this list, or this type of list, with a bunch of flying monsters, and we'll see how it goes. Hope you guys enjoyed it.